Continue. But I was reading this paragraph, and like I say, that's deep because, like I said, that's something that you'll do to a dog. You know what I mean, or an animal. It says basically in the program, the child will be put in typically. He will be put typically on a gurney. They will have an IV in one hand or arm. They'll be strapped down, typically naked. There'll be wires attached to their head to monitor electro, inco, their heads. It said there'll be wires attached to their head to monitor electroencephalograph patterns. They will see a pulsing light, most often described as red, occasionally white or blue. They'll be given most commonly, I believe, Demerol. Then they will describe a pain on one ear, their right ear generally, where it appears a needle has been placed, and they will hear weird, disorienting sounds in that ear while they'll see photic simulation to drive the brain into brainwave patterns while pulsing light at a certain frequency. Then, after a suitable period, when they're in a certain brainwave state, they will begin programming oriented to self-destruct and displacement of persons. Hammond says that many of the cases dramatizing MPD phenomenon have connections to the CIA and military installation. He describes one patient who went to a cult school where mind control sessions would take place several times a week. She would go into a room, get all hooked up, and she was in a proper altered state. Now they were no longer having to monitor it with electroencephalographs. They also had already had placed on the electrodes, one in the vagina, for example, 4 on the head. Sometimes they'll be on other parts of the body. They will then begin, and they would say to her, "You are angry with someone in the group." She'd say, "No, I'm not," and they would violently shock her. They would say the same thing until she complied and didn't make any negative response. They would continue, and because you are angry with someone in the group, or when you are angry with someone in the group, you will hurt yourself. Do you understand? She said no, and they shocked her. They repeated again, "Do you understand?" "Well, yes, but I don't want to." Shock her again until they get compliance. Then they keep adding to it, and you will hurt yourself by cutting yourself. "Do you understand?" Maybe she'd say yes, but they might say, "We do better. We don't believe you," and shock her anyway. Go back and go over it again. They will continue in this sort of fashion. She said typically it seemed as though they'd go about 30 minutes, take a break for a smoke or something, come back. They may review what they'd done and stop, or they might review what they'd done and go on to new material. She said the sessions might go on half an hour, they might go 3 hours. She estimated 3 times a week. Programming under the influence of drugs in a certain brainwave state, and with these noises in one ear and them speaking in other ears, usually the left ear associated with right hemisphere non-dominant brain functioning, and with them talking, therefore, and requiring intense concentration, intense focusing, because often they have to memorize and say certain things back word perfect to avoid punishment, shocking other kinds of things that are occurring. There will be very standardized types of hypnotic things done at times. There'll be sensory deprivation, which we know increases subjectability in anyone. Total sensory deprivation and suggestibility has significantly increased from the research. Hammond has come to believe that there are several levels of programming within the patient with whom he has worked, and that can be assessed by letters of the Greek alphabet. I got a scripture real quick. Since they mentioned the Greek alphabet, this is First Maccabees chapter 1 verse I'm gonna start at verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Verse 2, and made many wars and weighing many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Verse 3, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So this is showing you when these so-called white people, these red Hebrew Edomites, came into power. Verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Verse 5, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Verse 7, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Verse 8, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. Verse 9, and after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years and evils were multiplied in the earth. So once it's showing you that these red Hebrew Edomites, these so-called white people, which are really red people, came in the earth, that's when evils multiplied on the earth. And he said Hammond was come to believe that there are several levels of programming within the patients with whom he was worked that can be assessed by letters of the Greek alphabet. Who spoke the Greek? And I mean, yeah, of course, Jake spoke Greek. You had Hellenistic Greeks. You had the Hellenistic Greeks, which were Israelites that actually took on the customs of the Greeks. It literally tells you in this when they built the auditorium or the gym, Salakia, when they built the gymnasium. I mean, like I say, if this ain't, it's just so deep. I got this book, not to digress, but I was just thinking, I got this book talking about Are We Wrong, and I thought it would be better because it's kind of boring, but it's not though, because at the end of the day, it's like I read a lot of different books, so I can tell you when a book is a tough read. This is kind of a tough read to keep your attention, but I'm trying to battle through it because it's only a couple hundred pages. Point is, when you find out all the similarities to ancient Rome and to modern day America, and then people can't see this place being Babylon, or when the beast being wounded. Rome was considered a beast. You get what I'm saying? Because basically it assimilated, it conquered, it ate all the nations that it came up against and assimilated them. It's like the fucking Borg. You know what I mean? Like if you ever watch Star Trek. I want to get this scripture though, because talking about the wickedness or how wickedness multiplied when these Greeks or so-called red Hebrew Edomites got into. Well, they're not so-called the red Hebrew Edomites, so-called white boys, so-called white people got into power. This is Malachi, Salakia. This is the book of Malachi 1, verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord, yet ye say, wherein hath thou loved us? So the Lord say he loved us. They saying, where hath thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord, yet I love Jacob? So that's going for the 2/3. These wicked ass Israelites. They saying, how do you love us, Lord? Because you do this and you do that. But he said, wasn't Esau Jacob's brother? Yet I love Jacob and I hated Esau. You get what I'm saying? And laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Verse 4, whereupon Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down and shall cast them the border of wickedness and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. So at the end of the day, the people that built Rome, I'm sure you had Jake help them build it, but majority of that shit is, was Esau. If you don't think Esau could build, look at Esau building shit. I watch Esau throw up buildings in a month. Esau know how to build too. Don't get me wrong. Like Jacob is the former of all things. I believe that's in the book of Jeremiah. But at the end of the day, Esau, the Most High gave everybody their talents and put everybody in their lot. I like to say it this way. Jacob creates things. The one young brother in our camp, he came up with the Jake that actually was able to suck moisture out the air, so to create water out of thin air. You think they gonna market that though? But Esau will create a fucking nuclear bomb. You get what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. And I'm sure Jake probably had something to do with that too. But you know, it could have been just all Esau. Who's to say? You know. But I brought that out to bring out the point of, you know, he considers these Edomites, and when you go back far enough in the lines and trace, that's the spirit. When you go back and far enough in the lines, because I just brought out that Maccabees. Maccabees talks about Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, when you trace his lines back, his line goes back to Amalek. Amalek is a great grandson of who? Esau. So that's the spirit, because it's, you know, that's my 10 minutes. There's probably a few more pages in this. There's actually 2. So I'm going to do a last video, Lord willing, when I come back in after camp. So with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory. Call Halal Allah Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shah Waha Rachak. That's what thumb. That will honor apostles and elders of great millstone who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim around the 4 corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and sincerity, risking their lives and the freedom to do so. Shalom to the Akwati and Akim out there listening and learning. Lord willing, is an edifying video. Shalom to the confusion of faith, brethren, joining onto our ranks. And with that, I want to say shalom, shalom, and a Bible ball.